Our 90-day all-access package is always incredibly popular at the start of football, but we've made it even better. Not only do we discount the 90-day all-access package to $7.99, but until August 29th, we've added 30 days. That's right, until Sunday, August 29th, you get 120 days of the most action-packed sports month for only $7.99. That would include the rest of the NFL preseason, all MLB plays through the World Series, the entire college football regular season, at least 15 weeks of the NFL, over 2 months of the NHL and NBA, over 6 weeks of college basketball, plus any soccer, UFC, Asian baseball, Asian basketball, golf, and any other sports your favorite capper releases. The most action-filled 120 days of the sports year are yours for only $7.99.
Monday, August 23rd. I am not the Prez. I am Steve Merrill, hosting for the Prez. He will be back tomorrow on Tuesday. That, of course, is Teddy Covers, as always, for Teddy Covers. Great to see you, Teddy, on a Monday. And we have a great show. Marco D'Angelo, Bryan Leonard, a nice doubleheader, Vegas style. Teddy, Vegas style. I'm the outcast here on the East Coast. Marco used to be East Coast, but that was a long time ago. We'll get to some baseball. We're going to talk some MAC football with Bryan Leonard. I'm excited about that, Teddy, because Bryan Leonard is the MAC expert. I remember back in the late 90s when he went on the betting rotation, and Bryan Leonard was as excited as anybody I knew back then, and he still is excited about MAC football. We're going to talk about it today. And then you're going to have a big game breakdown on the NFL game tonight between the Jags and Saints. Packed show, baseball and football. Of course, college football starts later this week officially. But Teddy, before we get to that, what did you learn this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? I'm sure you found some stuff over the past 3 days and nights.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Of course, good promo for the show. For baseball games we're talking about today, we talk about the White Sox and the Blue Jays, the Rockies and the Cubs, the Mariners and the A's. Of course, we'll talk both side and total for Monday Night Football tonight. So the show today, yeah, it's loaded. Not just a MAC conference preview in college football. When you talk about what we learned this week, and there's two things. One of them, I'm not sure if I learned anything, but I want to ask you guys about it. I tweeted it last night. We've had 32 preseason games now, counting the Hall of Fame game. 2 of them have been in-conference affairs. The other 30 have been AFC versus NFC. And through the first 2 weeks of the preseason, AFC teams 27-3 straight up, 25-5 against the spread against NFC teams. Complete domination. The NFC W's, the Bears rallied from behind to beat the Dolphins. Dolphins' first stringers were better. The Rams covered through the back door against the Raiders. They were down a touchdown in the 4th. The Lions rallied through the back door against the Steelers. They were destroyed for most of that game. Washington beat Cincy. That was a coin flip. And the Giants only lost by 4 to Cleveland last night. Chargers ended up covering versus the Niners, even though San Fran won straight up. So I don't know if it's meaningful or not, Steve, but I saw it. I want to report on it. And right now, AFC teams dominating the NFC. There's one more thing I want to talk about what we learned over the weekend. And this is something I love as a handicapper because the pundits are overreacting to everything here in August. And once the pundits start overreacting, the betting markets aren't usually far behind. Before halftime of his second preseason game, the pundits are convinced that Trey Lance was a bust and the 49ers should have picked Mac Jones. Dude, it's the preseason. Settle down. Zach Wilson, who got nothing but accolades for his performance against Green Bay. The Packers didn't play any first stringers. If you watch the game, I don't think they had any defensive game plan at all. Wilson had wide open wide receivers, and yet the commentary was, he's brilliant. He's an ace. He's the guy. Settle down, people. Settle down. It's week 2 of the preseason. Zach Wilson is not going to come out and play like that on opening day against Carolina. What about you, Merrill? What did you learn? And do you think there's anything to that AFC dominating the NFC in preseason action, or is that just a little bit of static? When we look for trends, we're going to find them. The question is, are these trends meaningful, and are they predictive moving forward? AFC versus NFC, you got to take.
Well, normally I'd say no. And even if it was 60, 70%, I'd say, just random variance like you said. But what'd you say, Teddy? 27-3 straight up, 25-5 against the number. I mean,
yes.
That catches my attention because if you were to look at, fluctuations, you're not going to get a 27-3 outlier that often if it's really just random. I hesitate because maybe the backups are just better than the NFCs, but that also means the teams are deeper. And if you're deeper, you probably are better at the top as well. And let's look at the future odds. I mean, for the Super Bowl right now, the AFC is a 2.5-point favorite in a lot of locations, minus 130 on the money line to win straight up, 53.5. So it's basically a pick 'em. We're getting below that key number of 3 right now. So if you really do believe, there's an edge there, and I do think the AFC is the better overall conference, you could look at a futures play at minus 2.5. Of course, your money's tied up for 6 months. That's why I'm not a big fan of that. But that is interesting to mention. Also, real quick on the preseason recap for this past weekend, once again, two teams that, there's other teams that maybe have quarterback problems in the locker rooms right now, but I think the textbook example is the Minnesota Vikings with Cousins and some of the others, the vaccine, no vaccine drama. And then, of course, the Packers, with the Aaron Rodgers situation. And both of those teams lose, and they lose as favorites again this past weekend. And, of course, Minnesota is interesting to me because Zimmer, 20-5 straight-up run coming into this preseason, has now lost back-to-back games as a slight favorite. Harbaugh, meanwhile, continues to win and cover in the preseason. That is something that does not change. But yeah, Teddy, what do you think? AFC minus 2.5. Do you read anything into it?
So a couple of things to note there. AFC minus 2.5 is not the bet I would look to make off of this preseason info. The info I'm looking for is when it comes to week 1, are the AFC teams better than the NFC teams? Is that what this is about? As opposed to trying to predict who's going to be in the Super Bowl and letting the books hold for 6 months. This is a situation where if I like an NFC team in week 1, should I be nervous about it? Should I maybe tap the brakes? That's the thought process on this. It's not what are we going to do for the Super Bowl? It's what are we going to do right out of the gate, where the AFC teams have been a lot better than looked a lot better than the NFC teams so far. So that one certainly stands out to me, Steve, as something we want to be, how I would use that info. It wouldn't be for a future bet. It'd be for something right out of the gate. When it comes to these preseason, there's, again, all the markets do is overreact. All right. You brought up the 2 examples. What were the 2 games you brought up? There was one of them I wanted to.
Well, just Packers, Vikings, 2 teams that have had quarterback issues in the locker room in the offseason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Minnesota and their long-term preseason track record versus Minnesota this year has everything to do with 2 factors. One, Kirk Cousins isn't getting playing time. When you have bad backup quarterbacks, you don't cover point spreads in August. And that's what's happened to Minnesota this year. That hasn't been the case for them in years past. They didn't have their starting receivers on the field. Thielen was on the field for 1 series. He took a hit and he left. Justin Jefferson didn't play at all. It's not like that. Everyone's like, oh, Minnesota's offense is broken. Minnesota hasn't shown us their offense yet. So it's like people who don't recognize the nuance of the game that Minnesota, they were interested, but it wasn't like they were interested. They were going to put their starting receivers out there. They weren't. Their starting receivers are elite. Without them, with the backup quarterback, they're not as good. And it showed on the field. So, and of course, Zimmer against the spread, he had a great point spread record early in his career. His last, I think he's 6-8 ATS, his last 14 of the preseason. All of his success came early. But Steve, you and I will break down the NFL in detail on the opening line report following this show. That'll be at 10 o'clock Eastern. 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel.
That's right. We got a loaded Monday here. We've got a WagerTalk Today live right now. Opening line report, 1 o'clock Eastern. MLB first pitch right after that, around 1:50 Eastern. And let's talk some baseball. Let's bring in Marco D'Angelo. Marco, before we get to baseball, though, I want to quickly get your thoughts on this AFC-NFC debate. Looking at the opening week 1 schedule, we do have at least 4 or 5 games, I believe, that are interconference. And we have some AFC dogs. Maybe that's the way to approach it. Jets getting 4 at Carolina. We've also got Cincinnati getting 3.5 at home against those Minnesota Vikings, a team we just talked about. So some interesting angles there that we can maybe exploit. Marco, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. And what are your thoughts on that incredible 27-3 preseason record for AFC so far over NFC?
Well, guys, anytime you see a stat that, one-sided, it's going to make you look at it. But let's, be realistic. It's preseason, and we understand that different coaches have different philosophies. And if you look at some of the NFC teams, there's several teams that have stated right out of the box they don't care. Look at the Rams. They're not playing any starters. Look at Tampa Bay. They have nothing to prove in the preseason, sitting people. In Green Bay, you're not seeing any Rodgers. You already talked about Minnesota. Dallas, Zach's not back yet, or Dak, I should say. So there's so many teams that have reasons why they're not playing well. They just don't care about the preseason. Let's look at that stat after week 1 of the regular season. When people are playing starters, they are playing game plans where they're actually planning for their opponent. And let's see if that trend continues. But what it will do probably is give you a little bit of value on the NFC teams if that happens again this week and everybody overreacts, because as Teddy hit it on the opening of the show, when the pundits start talking, it filters its way to the betting window. There's no question about it. And our job is to find value. And if this is false value, then I'll look the other way. I like going, when people are zigging, I always love to zag. That's how I've been successful for a long time, because we know when everybody thinks the same way, it's usually the wrong way.
Yeah, what every team plays 2 non-conference games, I assume still. Although we got the extra game this year, so I'd have to double check that. But it used to be, every team would play 2 non-conference. That'd be 32 times 2, 64. So we'll see how it plays out. Marco, before we get to baseball, let's look at the NFL game tonight. I'm going to get your thoughts on this one here. Jacksonville at New Orleans. Saints right now, 4s across the board. I am seeing 4 minus $1.15. So it looks like we might see some 4.5s. It opened 3.5 earlier. Total right now in this game, sitting around that 39.5 mark. It had opened around 37.5. So we've seen a little bit of money on New Orleans, a little bit of money on the over. Jacksonville at the New Orleans Saints. This is the national TV game at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight on Monday. How are you approaching this one?
Well, normally, guys, when you're talking about a Monday night standalone game, there's usually value on taking the under. But I'm not going to do that this week, even though we've seen the line, as you said, move from 37.5 to 39.5. This is a preseason game. We've seen the trend so far after the first 2 weeks. It's, been, heavy dominance to the under. You saw both games go under again yesterday. But for this one, you've got 2 teams that have 2 legitimate quarterback battles. You generally don't see that in preseason. Yeah, there's some quarterback battles. Now, Jacksonville, I don't know if we can call it a legitimate quarterback battle, because you don't spend the number 1 draft pick on a quarterback and not know who your quarterback's going to be. It's just a question whether Trevor Lawrence, will be the guy right out of the chute, and it should be. They're not going anywhere this year. Get him in there and go ahead and develop this quarterback. But if you look at Jacksonville last week, I got to look at the Saints quarterback battle, and they got to be salivating, because the steam play in week 1 was Jacksonville over Cleveland. The Cleveland coach comes out and says, I'm not playing any of the starters. We're playing all the backups. And you saw the huge line move on Jacksonville. You had that quarterback, battle going on in Jacksonville, and everybody figured Urban Meyer win his first game and everything else. And they laid a colossal egg. And what concerns me is the defense got torched by Cleveland's backups. Now you've got a legitimate offense with 2 quarterbacks that are fighting for the job. This is a wide open battle between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, and I think they're going to do some damage tonight. Winston gets the start. Hill got the start last week, and Peyton has said he wants to name his starter before next week, because he's come into this 3-week preseason schedule this year saying he's treating it exactly the same as he would have treated the first 3 weeks of a normal preseason had we had 4, meaning next week's the dress rehearsal. And if it's the dress rehearsal, he wants his starter name. So I'm looking forward to the quarterback battle tonight. And I think you're going to see some points here. And I think Jacksonville's got to be better in the second week. Remember, it's a new offensive scheme. It's a rookie quarterback. They'll get better as time goes on. So I'm on the over 39.5 for the Monday night game.
So you talked about the struggles of the Jags defense last week, and they were on full display. Cleveland's backups against the Jaguars starters, 240 yards before halftime. Yeah. However, when we're looking for over bets to cash over winners, both teams got to score. And the Jags offense was just as bad as their defense, maybe worse. The offensive line was a sieve. Trevor Lawrence had no time to throw. There was no blocking. There was no running. It was, again, against the Browns' backups. Jacksonville starters offensively were every bit as bad as they were defensively. So I guess the question is, do we trust the Jags to score this week? Or is this say the Saints will get theirs? What do you think?
You need to, when you're betting an over, Teddy, yeah, you need both partners to be able to fill the dance card with some points. But I do think Jacksonville, as I said, it was the first week. It was the rookie quarterback. It was at home. Now, not so much excited that Trevor Lawrence is making a TV start tonight. And yeah, it's preseason, but all eyes are going to be on him. You're the number one draft pick and you're on national TV. And I'm sure that's why this game is televised for the Monday night game this week. But last week's game was at home. And there's more. I've always said it. When I like with pitchers in baseball, a rookie, I would rather see a rookie on the road than at home. I just think there's more pressure, making that first start in front of your home crowd that, you want to impress, you want to be playing there for the next 10 years of your career, blah, 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 all of that. It's easier on the road. Now, this road is you're playing in a dome, you're playing on national TV, maybe not so much, but they can't be as bad as they were last week. I think there's going to be some kind of improvement there. And let's remember, the Saints, their defense improved last year, but they still gave up a lot of points. I think they can get some points here. And we got Minshew that's going to be the guy that's going to get second half reps. That's something that you always got to look at with quality not that Minshew's, upper level quarterback, but he's a guy that started in the NFL and he's going to be facing backups. And I'm hoping for him to get me the points we need to get the over.
Once again, Marco likes the over 39.5 between the Jags and the Saints. A situation, if you count Trevor Lawrence as a starter, which he will be at some point this year, you've got 4 starting quarterbacks in this game, 2 on each team, as you mentioned. And that'll get over the 39.5, Marco says, in the NFL tonight. That's at 8 o'clock Eastern national TV. Little Monday Night Football national TV preview for the regular season to come. Let's switch over to baseball, Marco. And by the way, Marco D'Angelo is the number 1 baseball capper since the All-Star break, hitting 68% at WagerTalk.com. He's got a strong 4% pitcher mismatch today, and it's $9 Monday for all of us at WagerTalk.com. Myself, Teddy, and Marco get our best bets for just $9 today at WagerTalk.com. Marco, let's talk some baseball. Colorado Rockies at the Chicago Cubs. The Rockies were one of the worst road teams in recent history. Actually, probably the most extreme home-road dichotomy we'd seen in recent history. First few months of the season. It made a lot of sense. They obviously stacked their team and their pitchers to do well in the altitude. They were really struggling offensively on the road, but they have been a little bit better over the last couple of months. I think they were 7-30, 7-31. They've gone like about 7-14 since, so a little bit better. Cubs have not been doing too well this season. They're now 18 games below 500. The Rockies actually have a better record. They have 3 more wins right now, at least, and 5 less losses. Colorado's an underdog in this one. Which way are you looking?
Yeah, I can't argue with any of those stats on Colorado. There's one difference, though. Yeah, they've had their troubles on the road, but this is still a team that is trying. I can't say the same for the Cubs. This is a team, to me, if you want to talk about throwing in the towel, putting a fork in it, they're done. That's the Cubs. And you said they're 18 games under 500. Well, they're 14 games under 500 in the month of August. And why do I say the month of August? Because that's right after the trade deadline, and that's when this team, I feel, packed it in. When management said we are selling at the trade deadline, when they've been for the last how many years a perennial playoff team or in contention to the final weeks of the season of a playoff team, to throw in the towel, management waving the white flag, selling off all the assets, this team quit. They are 3-17 in the month of August, and they just played a 3-game series where they scored 5 runs against the juggernaut at home against Kansas City. I'm being very sarcastic calling Kansas City a juggernaut when you only score 5 runs in a 3-game series against them. I'm going to go ahead and look at this one. I like Senzatella in this matchup. He's pitched decent for Colorado. Hendricks has been all over the place this year. He can be good at times, but more often than not, he's not going to be. And he's had some control problems in the last few games. In his last 3 starts, his strikeout to walk ratio, 13-7. You're putting 7 guys free passes on in 3 games. That's why you've got a whip in the last 3 games of 1.75. When you're not scoring runs and you're playing in Wrigley and you're giving that many free passes, bad things are going to happen. I'm going to take Colorado in this one, and I'll give you a little stat on Senzatella. When he's been an underdog, 150 or less, the last 2 seasons, his team's 15-8 in his starts. I'll go ahead and take Colorado tonight as a live small dog. This is as much a fade against Chicago as it is backing Colorado.
So I'm certainly not going to try to make a case for the Cubs. One thing that I never do is look, I shouldn't say never because there's never nevers, but the Cubs just set their all-time losing streak record at Wrigley, where they lost 13 in a row at Wrigley Field now. They're playing terrible baseball. That said, for Hendricks, they've been good. They're 13-5 in his last 18 starts. They've been winning records from the All-Star break in Hendricks' last start. He's the only guy who I don't want to fade the Cubs with on the hill. Does that concern you here? Because Hendricks, you mentioned he had a couple of bad outings, but he's been far more good than bad over the course of the season. And it's not like the Rockies have a great track record.
Yeah, and when this sums up the Cubs season for you, Teddy, when Hendricks is your stability on the roster from the pitching staff, that's all you need to know about the Cubs season. Yeah, they have, but that series, they were absolutely lifeless against Kansas City. And if if I would have thought they were going to come out and win a game, you would have thought it would have been yesterday whenever you're talking about the all-time record and losing consecutive games at Wrigley, and you're playing the Kansas City Royals in an interleague game. That's to me the fade against. I can't bet a bad team, because what happens if they go out and Hendricks gives up 2 runs in the first inning? If that happens, that bad teams, the minute something bad or negative happens, things can spiral out of control. Colorado's playing good baseball right now, albeit it was at home. They won 5 out of 6 of their last games. I'm just going to take them to take the momentum. I just don't want any part of the Cubs at all. And they could beat me in this one, but I'm getting plus money. If I can get plus money against a sinking ship, I got to go with it.
And don't try to catch that falling knife when you're on the sinking ship as well. This is a textbook example of a falling knife right now with the Chicago Cubs. They've got to win. They've got to win, right? That's not the mindset that makes you money. And Marco, you've said years ago, I remember one of the best things I've ever heard you say is that about riding hot streaks. It's the same thing about fading a losing streak, is that you can be right multiple times. You'll only be wrong once. And it's the reverse here, catching a falling knife. You're only going to be right once, but you could be wrong another 10 times or 13 times, whatever the home streak is. And by the way, not only did they lose yesterday, they lose 9-1. They're down 6-0 in the bottom of the 4th, 9-1 after 6. I mean, they came out of the gate awful. Hard to see that changing. Hey, a team that's been surprisingly strong all season has been the Seattle Mariners. They come from behind yesterday, down 2-0 to the top of the 8th. They force extra innings against Houston. They avoid the sweep. The Mariners had been 10-1 on extra inning games earlier this season. We talked about they were due to regress. They went 1-3 since until yesterday. They're now 2-3 their last 5. But this is still a team, Marco, at least if you look at run differential, they're minus 62 on the season. That should be 13 games below 500, yet they're 9 games above. But we've been saying that for months also. That's like the reverse catch a falling knife. Fade Seattle, but they keep winning. They keep finding ways to get it done in close games. How to recommend taking this one against Oakland? They're currently 3 games behind the A's in the West.
Yeah, this is a big series for these two teams as they try to, keep pace with the Astros, who are in first place. This Seattle team, they've been gritty all year. They've had some big comebacks, and even, they had a little bit of a slide right after they made a trade, and it was questionable, if you remember, back at the trade deadline in a series actually playing Houston. They made a trade in that series with Houston, and I just scratched my head about it. But you look at this one, and I got a couple things to point out. The Oakland A's are coming off a series, an interleague series. Even though this is a big division matchup, that was a tough series for the A's for a couple reasons. One, it was a rivalry. It was an interleague rivalry. It's, big brother versus little brother. And that series always means more to the A's than it does the Giants, because the Giants have enjoyed more success in the Bay Area than the A's have. And then the way they lost, they won the first game of the series, but then lose the last 2 of the series, both by 1 run, both blowing leads late. Saturday, down to, 2 outs in the 9th inning, and they blow that one. lose the game. And then yesterday they had a lead again and blew that one, giving up 2 in the 8th inning, I believe, for a 2-1 defeat. This is just a spot where I've got to look at Seattle and the momentum, and I'm looking at the starting pitching matchup. And I'm going to take this as a first 5-inning wager. I've done a lot. Most of my success has been with 5-inning wagers. Why? Because, it's starting pitcher versus starting pitcher. Take the bullpens out of the equation. Now, given what the A's bullpen has done the last 2 days, maybe I should look at a full game, but I think there's a bigger edge through 5 looking at Gonzalez versus Blackburn in this game. Gonzalez has been absolutely phenomenal. You look at, he's got 5 straight games in which he's allowed 2 runs or less. In his last 4 games, he's given up a grand total of 2 runs. 2 runs over 4 innings. I'm looking him first 5 innings to outpitch Blackburn, who in his first game of the start of the season went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs, but gave up some walks in that game. He only had 3 strikeouts and 3 walks. That's a little bit of maybe a warning sign of things to come with him. I'll take this one. I'll take Seattle first 5. And I'm actually getting them as a slight underdog, first 5 with a tremendous pitching edge.
Marco D'Angelo, number 1 in MLB since the All-Star break, 68% return on investment, or 68% with his plays, netting a profit of more than $5,600. Of course, you can get his play, his 4% pitcher mismatch for just $9 today. But really the best value if you're looking to get on board with any of the WagerTalk cappers is to look at that 90 days all access, because you get 90 days plus 30 days for free. And that is every play, every day in every sport with nothing more to buy. There's no bait and switch. There's no, go upgrade to the premium package. It's real simple. 90 days plus an extra 30 days, so 120 days of all access. That offer expires Sunday at midnight. So take advantage this week. Marco, anything you want to say on your way out the door, my friend?
Now, is there any truth to the rumor that Prez took today off because he didn't want us have to read that promo that I was number 1 since the All-Star break?
I thought Marco
yes,
was
minus 175.
I thought it was because college football starts this week. He got scared, but that was my guess. But we'll see. It might be a combination of both that overwhelmed him. By the way, that 30 days free, as Teddy says, that expires this week, and it really is remarkable. Not only are you going to get the entire college football season, you're going to get about 15 weeks of the NFL, almost the whole NFL regular season, a couple months of hockey, NBA, college basketball, and then all the other sports, the Asian baseball, the soccer, all the other international sports. So, 90 days, $400 discount on the 90-day, plus if you sign up this week only, you get another month added for free. So it's 4 months for the price of even less than 2 because it's already discounted. Anyway, the math is confusing me, Marco, as I speak. Great seeing you as always. We will catch up soon. And Teddy Covers will be back right after the break here with this big game breakdown, NFL style, in about 20 seconds.
Our 90-day all-access package is always incredibly popular at the start of football, but we've made it even better. Not only do we discount the 90-day all-access package to $7.99, but until August 29th, we've added 30 days. That's right, until Sunday, August 29th, you get 120 days of the most action-packed sports month for only $7.99. That would include the rest of the NFL preseason, all MLB plays through the World Series, the entire college football regular season, at least 15 weeks of the NFL, over 2 months of the NHL and NBA, over 6 weeks of college basketball, plus any soccer, UFC, Asian baseball, Asian basketball, golf, and any other sports your favorite capper releases. The most action-filled 120 days of the sports year are yours for only $7.99.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. And of course, we got Monday Night Football for tonight. Right now, looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, I'm seeing the New Orleans Saints about a 4-point favorite at most books. Total, it's a split line right now. There are 39.5s out there. There are 40s out there. If you're betting over, look for 39.5. If you're betting under, look for 40. You can find either of those as we speak. Before I get into the game analysis, I do want to let you know about what's going on today. I've got a single best bet in MLB, as well as a play on the total for this Monday night football game. You can get both those plays, again, $9 Mondays over at WagerTalk.com. Fresh off a winning weekend. We're looking to keep it rolling into Monday. You can check it out right now. So I'm in play on the total for this game. I want to talk about the side here on the show. And look, Jacksonville last week, they weren't just bad. All right. They were awful. The offensive line play, awful. The defense, all kinds of holes. Urban Meyer after the game, quote, concerning? Yeah, everything's concerning. It's my job to be concerned. And it is. Remember, this was with the Browns sitting starters and the Jaguars playing theirs. And Cleveland's backups weren't just better than Jacksonville starters. They dominated Jacksonville starters. Then, of course, you look at the quote from Sean Payton after last week's game. And of course, the Saints were chucking it around last week, which you like for favorites in the preseason. 43 dropbacks, only 18 rush attempts. They had 6.0 yards per play, a very good number for the preseason. But 6 turnovers. Payton, quote, you have 6 turnovers, 10 penalties, you're going to struggle. We're fortunate even to be that close, honestly. Bad job by us as coaches, players. It was ugly to watch. The Saints aren't going to stink, all right? The Saints are going to be fine. The Jaguars are going to stink. And we're sitting here in a game where the Saints are interested and the Jags are interested. I just don't think they're capable. I'm playing. I'm laying. Give me New Orleans minus the 4. And there's your big game breakdown for Monday Night Football. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Once again, we got both side and total on this show. Marco covered the total. Teddy likes the side here for the big game breakdown. He's got a best bet as well in this game. And Teddy's also got some $9 action for Major League Baseball. And don't forget, as Teddy and I mentioned before the break, that all-access special is already discounted for the 90 days. It's $400 off a 3-month package. This week only, you get that 4th month added for free, which gets you through the entire college football season and basically all the NFL regular season as well. Baseball, basketball, everything, football, one price. We're going to have Bryan Leonard here in a few minutes, Teddy. Coming up after this show, though, once again, you and I are going to do the opening line report. Give everybody a little tease maybe on what they're going to get on that episode.
Yeah, sure. I mean, opening line report is real simple. We do it every Monday. Normally the host is Drew Martin, but Drew Martin gets a vacation before football starts, just like everybody. We all need one because as soon as this season starts, it's, balls to the wall until well after Christmas. So Steve will be hosting with me today, and it's real simple. We go through each and every game on the board, quick hitter fashion. Talk about what we saw this last weekend. Talk about things that are going to affect this week's line. Talk about where the number opened. Talk about where we think the number is going to move throughout the course of the week. Are these games you want to bet right now? Or these games you want to hold off and bet, wait until later, et cetera, et cetera. So the opening line report, it's quick hitter. It's 45 minutes and it's chock full of info. So if you never checked it out before, check it out today, 10 a.m. on the left coast, 1 on the East Coast, right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel.
And once again, following that'll be MLB First Pitch, which is also quick hitter style, where we do 4 baseball games every day. And then, of course, we have best bets from each of the cappers as well. And we've got Matt Josephs and Tony Finn on today on Monday. Bryan Leonard swapped with Matt Josephs. He was gracious enough to do that. He will be on this Wednesday. I'll be on tomorrow on Tuesday on First Pitch. And let's bring Bryan in now. I think we've got him ready to go in the cyber world. Bryan Leonard, welcome to the show. Good to see you, my man. We just had your cohort, your stunt double, Marco D'Angelo, on from Vegas. Now we got Bryan on from Vegas. And Bryan is originally in Ohio, and like many of them, Ralph Michaels, Mark Lawrence, some of the other greats. And he loves his Mac. We're going to get to the Mac in a moment, talk a little college football, which is in full swing this week. But first, Bryan, let's do a baseball game. Let's give him one more baseball game before we turn our attention to college football. And we haven't talked about White Sox and Blue Jays yet. I mentioned with the Mariners, the Mariners' run differential, one of the most extreme in baseball as far as their record being much better than it should be. Toronto's been the exact opposite this season. Toronto Blue Jays still have the 4th best run differential in all of baseball in the American League, at least. In the American League, yet they're 4th in their own division and 4.5 games behind 3rd place. So it's really been remarkable. They've been a very good offensive team. White Sox Blue Jays, how are you approaching this one? Side or total, Bryan?
Nope.
Teddy, I upset him. It was just too much information. Yeah, it's just too much information. But Teddy, it has been amazing with the Blue Jays, though. I mean, this is a team that's plus 116 net runs on the season, and they're still in fourth place in their own division. They didn't do much yesterday. I mean, what's your take on Toronto going forward? Obviously, the clock is ticking, even though they've been a very good offensive team this year.
Well, there's a couple of things to talk about here because this whole run differential as being extremely meaningful. And you see it in the NFL now, where people talk about the point differentials being extremely meaningful. I'm not buying that. I've never bought that, and I don't buy it now. If a team loses 6-3 or they lose 38-3, they lost the game. It doesn't make a difference. And the fact that a team had a bunch of blowout losses in April and is affecting their run differential in August is completely irrelevant to me. When a team loses, every time they lose by 10 runs, but every time they win by a run, that'll make I'm interested in that when you're talking about run line bets, but not necessarily in terms of how good that team is. All that said, right now, Toronto's headed in the wrong direction. They're not playing good baseball. And given the uphill battle they have in their own division, I'm not real bullish on the Blue Jays moving forward. Lance Lynn, he's one of these guys, when you talk about the guys that are 6'5", 280, they don't wear down in the summer months. Lance Lynn gets better in the summer months. You worry about the guys that are about 170, guys that look like me and don't have a lot of meat on their bones because they get, you wear down in the summer. A pitcher weighs $160. That's not a guy I want for his fifth start in August. But the big guys are a little bit different, and Lynn's been phenomenal in recent weeks. I can only look at the White Sox in that ballgame. Toronto, not a team I'm excited about backing moving forward. See, we got Bryan in now, and then we can get him for his opinion on this game because he's the one who's supposed to break it down.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Teddy, speaking of the run differential, though, I'm kind of with you on that. It's not something I've looked at much in years past. I've been using it a lot this year just because it is good talking points when we're doing videos, and shows and stuff, just to kind of compare. But I will say I think there's a difference between, 16, 17 games now in the NFL versus 162 games in baseball. You're talking about 10 times the sample size. And I do think those run differentials kind of over the long haul should even out to the winning and losing teams. So that's why I do look at it in baseball a little bit. I don't look at it really in the NFL at all because, like you said, one bad week in the NFL can throw off your net differential all season. Baseball, it's 1/10 is affected. So that's my thought on that.
All right, so let me ask you this then, okay? How much of a difference is there between the Rays and the Yankees? In your power ratings or in your mind, how much difference is there between those two teams?
Well, what's interesting about it, though, yeah, I know where you're going with that because just for the listeners, Rays
those two teams. No. You got to answer the question.
What I was going to say is I don't think there's a huge difference in my power ratings, and the run differential has been extreme this year. That was my point, where I was going to agree with you where the run differential isn't the end-all, be-all for that reason.
The run differential between the Rays and the Yankees is equivalent to the run differential between the Red Sox and the Tigers. Okay?
Correct.
Or the run differential between the Indians and the Twins. It's like 20-game run differential difference or 30-game run differential difference. I'm not sold on it being meaningful in any way other than when a team gets blown out, they get blown out worse. Okay. I don't care if you lose a game 18-3 or you lose a series and all three of those games you get blown out. It doesn't matter. It matters for the run differential, but it's just 1L.
So, Bryan Leonard, let me ask you, you're a big numbers guy, you're a big baseball guy. I mean, how much obviously on a daily basis when we're handicapping games, run differential, I agree, does not apply. But over 162 baseball games, I do think run differential does kind of tell you who the winning and losing team should be, and it can point to undervalued or overvalued. Bryan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Run differential, and I also take a look at how teams have done against teams with winning records. We saw that last year with the AFC Central. They had three teams make the playoffs, and all three teams didn't win a single game. And when you go back and look, it was because they were beating up on other bad teams. So that's something you always have to keep an eye on. And I like to bet on the teams that win against good teams, the Tampa Bays, the Houston Astros for the most part. Just to me, that's what you want to look at. Every game is individual, but if you got a team that comes out every night and gives you a good game, and once in a while they get blown out, but they don't get blown out very often, that's the kind of team I like.
And Bryan, we're going to get to some MAC football. You're the MAC expert, but quickly, give me your thoughts on this White Sox Blue Jay game that I teased a little bit earlier here for you.
Yeah, I played this under, gave it out last night at 9. As soon as I bet it, somebody must have been betting it with me because it came up at the same time. And then it went down to 8.5. And that's what we're seeing now. So we don't have quite the value on it as we did before. But you take a look at these two teams and you expect high octane offenses. And if you take a look at what they've done against right-handers over the last month, actually Chicago's a little bit below average. Tampa's or Toronto's a little bit higher than league average. But overall, combined, slightly better than league average against righties. You take a look at the schedule these teams have played this year. Every game's gone under the total. They've been lower scoring games compared to the total of today. And they've only had one game, I believe. They obviously didn't play last year, but in 2019, it was a situation where there were a lot of low scoring games and they had some pretty good offenses. So we got two of the elite pitchers in baseball going today, at least for this season. Lynn could actually come out and win the Cy Young. It hurt him last week when he got upset and he got pulled one inning before getting the victory. But this is a guy you want to bet on. He's been terrific against Toronto in his history. And Manoah's been probably the most consistent rookie starter we have seen in Major League Baseball this year. So I like this game to go under the total.
So Brian says, look for the Blue Jays and White Sox to stay under the total. Brian, I want to get into a little college football talk. We only have less than 5 minutes left, but I do want to get into some MAC conference preview action. And from first glance for me, it looks like the good teams in this conference, Toledo's, the Western Michigans, they're going to be pretty good this year. But the bottom feeders, your Akrons, your Bowling Greens, they look as bad as any teams in college football on paper. So huge dichotomy between the good teams and the bad teams in this conference. Give us your thoughts. Any teams you want to be betting on, any teams you want to be betting against, right from the get-go.
Actually, there's a couple teams I'm looking to be betting against, and they're both expected to do pretty well, and that's Buffalo and Ohio. And keep in mind, Ohio had a legendary coach, Solich, left right before the season. He's older. He might have seen the writing on the wall, but everybody thought they did great last year. They played 3 games. 2 of them were against Bowling Green and Akron. So we really don't know anything about Ohio. And if you take a look at Buffalo, they played the 3 worst teams in the MAC last year: Northern Illinois, Buffalo, and Bowling Green. Akron and Bowling Green, the 3 worst teams. So you've got 2 coaches that are gone, 2 very good coaches, and that's the problem in the MAC is you've only got a few good coaches. To me, Central Michigan right now is the best head coach in this conference. So you're taking a Buffalo team who, from a talent standpoint, is ranked 124. They lost some players to Kansas. They brought in a few players, but everybody's expecting Buffalo to be really good this year. They've got a rookie head coach. They've got guys that haven't done that well in offensive and defensive coordinator in the past. I don't like this coaching staff for Buffalo, and the talent ranking isn't nearly as good as what people think. I'm looking to bet against Buffalo. Ohio's the same way. Everybody thinks Ohio's just going to reload. They're not as good as they were before from a talent standpoint. The coaching standpoint could be good, but right now they just don't have the experience in that regard. So I prefer to bet against both those teams. I don't want any part of the bottom 2 in Akron and Bowling Green. I don't think I'll be betting on them anytime this season, but hell, you never know. Give me enough points, maybe I will. But to me, Toledo is the clear class of this conference.
Yeah, and by the way, Ralph Michaels was on a few weeks ago when I was guest hosting here, Brian, and he gave us a free over-under wins play on Toledo over 8.5. And we looked at that schedule. Out of the 12 games, I think there's maybe only one time they'll probably be a good-sized dog. They had 11 winnable games basically out of 12, yet the total was only 8.5. Brian, before we let you go, I want to ask you a big-picture question here. You've been doing the MAC for over 20 years, along with myself and Teddy. I remember back in the late 90s, we all got excited when it came on the betting rotation, and we used to just dominate this conference. I still think there's good opportunities still. And of course, it's nice to have a MAC expert like Brian on your payroll, because come October and November, we get those Tuesday and Wednesday standalone national TV games, which I still think is the smartest thing in all of college football. I still don't know why more of the mid-major conferences don't do that. But let's talk about September, the first month here. Normally these teams are big underdogs against some powerhouses, and then they start playing conference action October on, like I mentioned. How do you approach these early games? Do you find more opportunities now? Do you wait till conference action? I mean, or is it just a give and take on a daily basis?
Yeah, early in the season, I prefer to bet on the better coaching staffs, the better prepared teams, and the better talented teams, which is normally not anybody in the MAC. But the point differentials are what keeps us in business here. So until we know what kind of numbers we're going to get, I'm going to look to fade the MAC. I faded the MAC in the bowls for years, and I think they did pretty well last year in the bowls. But this is a team when they play out of conference, they're usually not very good. But you have to take a look at it. A lot of times, like for example, Akron is going to be playing Ohio State. You can't make a line high enough in that game. Akron's treating it as if, please get me the hell out of here without getting anybody hurt. And Ohio State's one of those teams that will come out and they could beat you with their fourth and fifth string players. So it's a situation for me that those kind of teams are so hard to predict. You're not going to get a MAC team to be able to cover those. But you have like the Irish going up against Toledo this year. If you get the right amount of points in that one, that Toledo could be a nice underdog in that game because you got an Irish team that everybody gets up for each and every week. And they're going to take a look at that schedule and say, hey, we get to play a MAC team. They may be able to overlook Toledo and might get some value on the Rockets in that matchup.
Yeah, I like the line of thinking. And one other thing I'll point out as we close on the MAC here, keep in mind, 20 years ago, the MAC was the mid-major conference. Now we have even more bottom feeders. Sun Belt, Conference USA is pretty bad nowadays. So the MAC isn't like the worst of the mid-majors. They're the big brother of the mid-majors, in my opinion, now. So it's something else to keep in mind. There's a lot of other teams that are huge underdogs here in the month of September. Bryan, $9 Monday. What have you got going? I know you have a big 5% play lined up here as well in football. You've just been crushing in 5%ers. What's the record now? I know it's about 70%, I think, over the past year or so.
Yeah, 23, 10, and 1. And we threw a shutout in our baseball 5% yesterday. It's funny. There's only a few games on this opening day, but I really have some opinions on it. So I put out a 5% today. I've got a couple 4%. So looking forward to this college football season. Can't wait for Saturday.
Yeah, once again, 23-10 run on 5% releases. He has a 5% opening day college football. That's a college football power play that he's talking about. Get it right now before the line moves. And keep in mind also, it's $9 Monday for all baseball right now at WagerTalk.com as well. Bryan, great seeing you. We will catch up soon. You'll be on First Pitch this Wednesday. You're gracious enough to swap with Matt today, so we'll see you on Wednesday on MLB First Pitch. And Teddy, I will see you in about 15 minutes. We're going to do opening line report. I'll also be back tomorrow, Tuesday, for MLB First Pitch here on this network. Thank you once again to Marco and Bryan for joining us. And Teddy closes out $9 Monday, 3-month special. If you sign up this week, you get the 4th month for free. WagerTalk.com. It's quite simple.
Yeah, and that's going to wrap it for the Monday show. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to hang out with Steve and I and our guests. We'll do it again tomorrow, same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Although Prez will be back tomorrow, sitting in Steve's chair. Between now and then, enjoy the games and good luck tonight.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.